something went on here, something went on there.
Tonight on Taggart and Torrens.
Taggart, Torres, and the rest of the players in the World Cup.
We find out the situation with the situation.
And a brand new game called Over Under. That's all coming up right now on TNT. That's what's cracking.
Hello, Jonathan.
Jeremy Taggart, nice to hear your voice after all this time. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's nice to hear your voice, and it's been a little bit of a while. We apologize to everybody. We have been busy. You've been a little bit more busy because you've actually been doing something. Have you ever directed before, Jonathan? An episode of TV?
I have. I've directed a bunch of episodes of my own show, but this was the first time I directed Trailer Park Boys. And it was it's sacred ground. It's grass that Mike Clattenburg planted and mowed. So I was stepping into big shoes for sure. But the interesting thing is the show just continues to find new jokes, new moments, new frontiers in comedy. And it went really well. I was really lucky that cast and crew were so nice and gracious and generous and all that stuff. And I guess I'm surprised at just how much you can learn by osmosis.
I guess so. But I figure you I guess there was kind of like a period with the Trailer Park Boys where people thought it was kind of going away, but the resurgence of it coming back on Netflix, and I guess this deal going forward with Netflix, it just kind of solidifies a pretty amazing thing for somebody who is trying to get a TV show on TV when you're actually going through the back door and something with Netflix. It's almost like old school 70s rock band, record deal where you're just guaranteed to be on,
The interesting thing is I'm not out there on the road with the three guys when they're touring as the Trailer Park Boys, but they say that when they go to places, it's a new audience. It's teenagers who found it on the internet and, Netflix moving forward from now. But every new generation just discovers this show and seems to embrace it in ways the previous ones didn't. So the thing that's kind of interesting is this generation has access to social media and the internet service and all the things that didn't exist when we started doing the show 15 years ago. So these people who have watched the first 7 seasons, they're posting pictures online, the producers and things of what we're doing now, and people are like, man, they look old.
That's what's cool about it is you're making it work because you're in a trailer park, so it's actually believable that, you're middle-aged and things aren't really working out.
And still wearing a do-rag. But it's funny. I mean, if anybody looked at a picture of themselves from 15 years ago beside a picture of themselves from today, they'd probably look a little different too.
Yes.
But the whole problem with the internet is you can type things that you would never have to say to someone's face.
Well, isn't that show Orange is the New Black only on Netflix?
Yeah, I believe so. And House of Cards certainly is. And Ricky Gervais's show is a Netflix show.
But isn't it amazing how big those shows actually are? Like, especially the Orange is the New Black. Like, it really has that feeling of like a Breaking Bad or, the Mad Men or something, or Walking Dead, like where you hear about it every single day on Twitter that I had to watch it or I'm watching it. It's people are getting things in incredible ways, but Netflix, I guess they've kind of figured out a whole new way to do it, and it's just unbelievable how big they've gotten.
Well, it's interesting from a writer's standpoint, because I was in the writer's room with the three guys this year. Normally what bogs down the process is you write a script, you send it to the network. First, you write an outline, you send it to the network, you wait for notes, you get notes back. Maybe they don't like what you've done, you change it, you send it back, they sign off on the outline. Then you write the script, you send it back, they send some notes, you do another draft, you send it back. Netflix, they just want the finished product and they give the check up front. So there's no production executive hovering, weighing in on, it might be a funny joke, guys. Nobody's giving feedback on what's funny, and you get into dangerous territory when a whole great group of people are weighing in on what's funny, because comedy is so subjective. So to be able to, in a small nucleus, decide what is funny and what we thought really worked, and have the vote of confidence from I don't even know if you call it a network, from Netflix, to just go ahead and make the thing that we know we can make. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back to a traditional format again.
Well, it really is the old idea of Hollywood, the old idea of the music industry, where you have one person's vision and they go forward with that vision, and usually it's intact, like you said, and it's been hasn't been taken away. The purity is still there by virtue of the one guy doing it or the one group of people staying there. And similar to SCTV in the early 80s before they went to NBC, you know, when it gets under the microscope of 50,000 people that end up having to ruin it just because there's too many ideas.
Well, and when it tries to be all things to all people, it stops being anything to anybody. And as Winston Churchill said, you don't have to be the expert, you have to hire them. So it's nice in any event to be given that vote of confidence. And it also doesn't drag the process down, because you can keep that momentum going from we have a great idea to I'm going to write it in an outline to I'm going to write it in a draft, and the whole thing happened really quickly. So that was really exciting. Obviously, the other side of that is House of Cards was nominated for an Emmy Award. Traditionally, the Emmys are the awards for accomplishment in TV. So as a show that's made exclusively for the internet, does that technically count as a TV show? It's kind of new turf. And obviously it's the way of the future, but it's interesting for sure.
And it's perfect because you think about what it actually is entertainment for the same reason that TV came on in the first place. So for them to argue or for someone to think that's weird is ridiculous. It's just the monopoly that they've created. And they may have had these award shows come out of that, but here we are. People are getting stuff for the same purpose. Just if you like it, here it is. And it doesn't matter where I got it, if it's good or not.
And it's funny because the year 2000 is the year we shot the first season of Trailer Park Boys. And in some of those early episodes, I'm actually walking with a cane because I was in a car accident then. And people had big flip phones at the time. There aren't really many cell phones in the early Trailer Park Boys episodes. In fact, there aren't really cell phones. We still use walkie-talkies if people need to communicate on the show. But it's interesting to think about how far we've come in terms of, you know, iPhones and social media and all this stuff. Even, I mean, that was kind of the dawn of email at the time, the year 2000. It had been around, but it wasn't really as prevalent as it is right now. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I was living in California, and I got called by someone at CBC who said, we want to bring you in to audition to be the host of this show. And I said, I'll be honest. They called my manager, and I said, I'll be honest, I'm not really interested in that type of show. I don't want to audition for it. And my manager made the good point that unless you have a moral opposition to something, you might as well go and do it, because you never know when this person will get a job somewhere else or your paths will cross again, and it's good to have the relationship. Unless you have a moral opposition to what they're saying, you should do it. So I agreed to audition, and then they called back and said, we actually would like to see him as a panelist. It was kind of a news quiz TV show. And I said to my manager, you know, I'll be honest, I was on the fence about hosting the thing. I can tell you with 100% certainty I wouldn't want to be a panelist. This is through email. So I think we should just tell them, thanks for thinking of me, but I'm going to step out this time. I just don't want to lead anybody down the path of thinking that I might do it. Not that they'd want me, but it's just better to be honest and upfront. So I think we should tell them that I'm not into it. 20 seconds later, I get an email back from my manager, all uppercase letters. It says, wah, wah, my pussy hurts. I don't want to be a panelist.
Wow.
He thought he was forwarding my email to his assistant.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Just in the category of early technological gaffes and how far we've come. Now, of course, everybody has had enough of those that you don't put the address of the person you're sending it to in until you're sure you're ready to send it, all those things. But this was kind of early enough.
Did you get it? What was your response?
Well, so I thought about it. First of all, wham, wham, my pussy hurts. I don't want to be a panelist. Like, wham, am I a baby? Or I'm being a woman? Like, it was a kind of a mixed message anyway. Secondly, I'd never caused him even a nanosecond of discomfort in our relationship. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I'm pretty easy to get along with. So I thought the best thing to
man.
do was to not even acknowledge that it happened. Let him sweat it out. My phone was blowing up. It was ringing off the hook. I made him wait 24 hours. And then I finally emailed him back and said, I just reiterated what I was thinking. Like, sorry, man, I didn't want to lead them down a path. I thought that was the best course of action. But I should go because I have a gynecologist appointment because my pussy hurts. That was the end.
Nice. And no response there?
No, that was it.
He didn't say sorry, or was he like he...
Well, his apology was, I'm sorry that was meant for my assistant.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a pretty feeble apology.
Exactly. I meant it.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
I meant it, but I didn't mean you to hear it. But, that's just how it goes.
Have you ever been burnt by an email?
Not like that. That's pretty harsh.
It was harsh, but also funny.
Yes, it is very funny. Yes, for sure. I don't know. I'm sure I have, but I just can't. That one's so good that I don't even want to attempt anything in that realm.
I do have a rule, though, that if I get an email that makes me angry or something, or I have to address something that's not comfortable, I write it in the language that I want to use with the address line blank and wait 24 hours. And then if I still feel the same way, then I hit send. But more often than not, time just diffuses everything, and you don't want that stuff in writing. You don't want any evidence of it anywhere.
No, you just want it to go away and go to bed and move on with your life.
Plus, there's no tone font. You can say things, aside from LOL, you can say things that you mean to joke and people don't pick up on it.
You do, but the thing is with tone, like, people always just take the worst possible tone that you could think.
Yeah.
No matter what. It's like, how's it going?
What's that supposed to mean?
Why are you so short?
Right.
Or, okay. Oh, all right. Somebody doesn't care for me all of a sudden.
At the same time, I don't want people in business transactions using emoticons. That's why I think texting is kind of the perfect medium, because it cuts out all the ramp up and ramp down, and you can just get right to the point. I'm running 7 minutes late. Okay, bye. I love that.
Oh, man. Hey, you know what? We have had some time since the last podcast. My dad got out of the driveway. He was stuck in the mud up there.
That'll mean a lot to the people. That's great news.
Yeah, he finally got out. They got gravel there. The ceiling fell in on him last week in their bedroom while he was sleeping. How about that?
Not to pry, but was your mom there too?
She was, but it didn't hit her.
So
the drywall from the roof just kind of landed on my dad. He has a history of this. This is not the first time a ceiling has fallen in on Ron.
And that's how he got the nickname Plaster Face?
Yeah, he gets plastered.
So
Ronnie got plastered up in Baysville last
literally.
week.
What?
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Well, I think there was a leak initially in the roof, and then that, what happens with leaks if they're not secured and fixed properly, they spread, and the wood has softened, and then for some reason it cracked and broke and fell on my dad while he was asleep, which is the second time in his life that's happened in my lifetime.
That's like getting struck by lightning twice.
Yes.
So
poor guy.
First of all, he's okay?
He's okay. It wasn't that big a deal. It was more like kind of just a piece of drywall falling, not like the whole roof. So he was okay. Yeah. It sounds a lot worse than it actually was, but the weather's been crazy everywhere. The rain is ridiculous. We had a tornado in Angus yesterday that thank God nobody was killed, but it was terrible. There's people without power all over the place. Alberta's getting like crazy hail and snow, and out east, how's it going there?
Well, none of that stuff's going on.
You still haven't got heat yet, though?
No, a little bit here and there. What do you think goes through your mind when you're in the basement of your home and the roof gets ripped off? That must blow your mind. Like, the word surreal is bandied about a lot, but that must be really surreal.
Well, I heard it. They said the one that went through Angus yesterday, they said it was like a freight train coming into town. Like, that's how loud it was. It was like you could definitely hear this thing coming, and when it was going, it was just this collection of massive things that it's been picking along the way, and nothing, trees and housetops and whatever else.
Does Ontario usually get tornadoes?
Not like that. Usually when they do, they're bad. I remember we had one in Barrie when I was a kid, and I think it was 85, and that was ridiculous. There was a lot of people killed and a lot of massive damage. They took out a whole racetrack in Barrie and neighborhoods, and the pathway was, you could see it driving up the 400.
Jeez.
It's whenever they hit pretty hard. Hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour, just madness.
Unreal.
Scary stuff.
Well, say what you will, there's certainly plenty of evidence around that our climate is changing. And we've talked about the polar grizz before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This new...
What do you think about that?
The new breed of bear. I think that's...
that's right. That's right. The new hybrid, scary, massive bears.
Well, grizzly bears are traveling further north than they ever have, looking for food because it's milder, and polar bears are forced to travel south. So now they've actually pounded, and there's a polar grizz.
Yeah. It's like a what up, bud? What up, bud? I can't eat you. Let's get down.
Yeah. Interspecies couples.
How tough is that, baby?
Pretty tough.
Have they been around enough to actually have like a few? Is there a generation?
I think
of
it's
these
kind of
things
speculation. There's some pictures on the internet, but I'm sure Pixar is working on a movie called Polar Grizz because it just sounds like the most adorable animated thing. What's going on with the situation?
Well, the situation was the actor, the situation from the Jersey Shore.
Actor
was in. Well, I guess you could call him that. When he's on TV and they get ratings now, I'm not going to break it down to Gene Hackman.
Abter.
Yeah, Abter. He was in a tanning salon, and there was an altercation and a fight, and something happened, and all of a sudden he was arrested, and he's being, I guess someone's saying he's assaulted somebody, and it's actually not surprising that it happened in a tanning salon to me. I thought he would. I can't imagine not ever needing to go in one because he's already so dark.
The ituation. That guy's a mess. From what I skimmed, I can't even call it reading it. He and his brother got in a fight over how to run the business, and one of the patrons ran next door and called 911 because she was so scared. And I read a clip from the person who owned the establishment next door saying you could hear the Sorrentino brothers bouncing off the walls in the tanning salon because they were fighting.
That's
fist pumping,
bouncing
some
off
rolling.
the wall.
Yeah.
Well, who's the brother? Why isn't he getting involved?
Well, because he doesn't have a nickname, but I'm sure the situation wanted to roll him in to this newfound fame. Hey, this will be good for us. You can run my business.
I love the bouncing off the walls part. That's my favorite.
I'm going to tell you, the most depressing gig I've ever... I've had some pretty depressing ones, but one of the most depressing gigs I've ever had was covering the first annual Reality TV Awards for the Fox Reality Network. And the reason it was depressing is because there's a pecking order and a hierarchy in reality show contestants.
Come on.
Yeah, totally. That was the year that Breaking Bonaducci was out. So Danny Bonaducci was king of the hill. He was at the top of the social totem pole. And beneath that was like a couple folks from The Bachelor. Then beneath that was kind of Big Brother. And then beneath that was all the sex therapy, You Pounded My Aunt, like those kind of real docu reality shows. But there's Bonaducci was strutting around. It was pretty wild.
Was he? I can't imagine how much of a dick he was acting like.
Do you want a funny Danny Bonaducci story?
Yeah.
As if there aren't any unfunny Danny Bonaducci stories. No. The 1990s were not kind to Danny Bonaducci, who was most famous for being Danny Partridge in the Partridge Family. So he was living.
Wasn't he living on the streets drunk?
Yeah, but he was also living on a sailboat at one point, and he had a cell phone. And every night he would call in to this radio station, and this kind of overnight DJ became his on-air friend. So they started to do this fundraising campaign where they got listeners to send in money for Danny Bonaducci. And then they presented him with a giant check for, I think it was like $30,000 or something. And the check was made out to Danny Partridge, and he couldn't cash it.
Come on.
Yeah, showbiz lore right there, bud. Look that up on the
But
Google.
he ended up, but how did he get on the morning radio,
It's worth
that
a
same
Google.
guy?
I don't know how he rebounded. I guess that was kind of kindling for the fires of the Bonaducci dream, and he came back. But I auditioned alongside Danny Bonaducci to host some stupid reality show, and he took his wife Gretchen into the room to audition with her, and he said to the casting person, if it's cool with you, Gretchen's going to come in and read with me. And so I waited in the room after they went in just to listen, and you could hear, hi, I'm Danny Bonaducci, and I'm Gretchen Bonaducci. Like he was elbowing her and kind of coaxing her along, so they were going to try to sell themselves as a twofer. It was terrible.
Oh, nice. So yeah, she's just going to read with me.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have another part kicking around?
Yeah. The Bonaducci. You get 2 for 1.
Oh, you got to do us both, Doc.
Hey, since I told you one of the most depressing gigs of my life, it's your turn. You must have a depressing gig or two you could share.
Oh, I played drums at a bar mitzvah once.
Come on. As
Yeah,
part of
how
a
about
band
that?
or just by yourself?
By myself.
Come on.
Just a solo, because the kid was a big fan of the drumming. But I don't even know if it's embarrassing, because the guy gave me a boatload of cash just to play drums for 10 minutes.
So what'd you do? Just a solo?
Yeah, man.
Amazing.
I just brought my drums, set them up, played them, and then threw them back in the van.
Cash in
took
hand.
A check. Yes.
Leave it running, Bruno. I'll be right back.
Yes, I'll be right back. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like the guy threw out a number, and I was like, all right,
Sure.
whatever.
I mean, sure.
I
speaking
like
of-
to play. I love playing drums, so you want me to play drums? These kids are gonna enjoy it, I guess.
Well, speaking of which,
So
if you don't have a moral opposition to it, why wouldn't you do it?
I just shredded it up. I'm gonna show these guys some drums.
Amazing. Threw some sticks out to the kids. Way you go.
For sure.
Did you
And
get
because
food?
it was what it was, I could throw a big number out there, and he was like, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, ridiculous. I mean, that's that's pretty good, right? That's slightly embarrassing, I
Yeah.
guess.
Embarrassing for him. Embarrassing for him that he paid you a bunch of cash. Okay, we have to talk about the World Cup, and we have to talk about the Redskins.
Can we do that after this break?
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be right back on TNT. Stay tuned.
Where's my beer chair?
And we're back.
What'd you do with your break?
Well, I had some floodage in the basement, so I had my brand new restored basement torn out and had a bunch of mold taken out. So right now I've got an empty cement basement, and I'm just kind of keeping an eye to see where the water comes from. So there's been a little bit of everything, some contract work, a little bit of CSI plumbing.
Hey, did
I
you,
guess.
you were on Disaster Decks. Were you able to
Yes.
tee up some kind of like basement nightmare kind of reality show to come fix it for you for free?
Not really, because it's more like basement nightmare when you find out that the insurance company aren't going to cover the claim. So
Yikes.
right now it's like CSI to figure out that this is something that was not a foundation issue. It's not seepage. I'm going through the steps of what the claim covers, so I'm figuring out the how-tos and what ours.
Is there really mold?
You have to understand, it's a brand new foundation that was just built a year and a half ago. There's no cracks.
I understand.
There's no problem with it. So it's because we do live on a lake, but I mean, lots of houses around here have basements. So I'm just dealing with this basement issue, and it's just making me goddamn crazy, Jonathan.
I have a new communication stance with the planet Earth. And it's in part because we built a home a year ago too, and every time it rains, it also rains in my house. And I think you just have to go into every interaction with everyone, from a window salesman to your own mom, with the sentiment that they're trying to screw you somehow. And if you look at everybody with a cocked eyebrow, it's A, less disappointing when they are in fact trying to screw you somehow, and B, gives you the smallest chance of maybe catching them in the act of trying to screw you somehow. And I guess that nice happy accident is you kind of come off as somebody who should not be screwed with.
Yeah, but I'm this my situation is like the one for the guy that helps you along the way, and I was lucky enough to have a guy that like looked out to not screw me, you know what I mean? So it's like great to have that next time for sure. But
so where's he during Seepgate? He's
right there. He's got he's like plowing the way. It's his guys that are doing the grunt work, and it's been he's been helping me. So I'm lucky in that sense. I've got good people on my side.
That's good.
It's just really a lot of sitting around and trying to figure out how it's happening. So like I said, there's if there were forensics for water in basements, I'm going to figure it out.
So this guy, we have there are wasps in our home, and there like I said, it rains in our house.
Wasps
and when I
in
said
your house?
they get in through the windows because the windows are wooden windows. We built a log home, and the wooden windows are bowed. So when I said to the wooden window guy, like, it seems like the windows aren't really windows have two jobs: keep the rain out and keep the wasps out, and they don't do either of those things. And he said, well, 80% of them do.
Oh, no. So that means there's 20% of a hole in every window?
Well, no, it means 20% of them are bowed and don't work. But if you gave him a check for 80% of the invoice... Anyway, we sound like a couple old white dudes.
Oh, man.
Talking about house issues.
How can you fix that?
They're going to replace the windows.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
Yeah. That's honestly, the Twitter machine is good for that, because you can start lighting a fire under people's bedonks on the Twitter machine. When stuff goes sideways.
Throwing out the name of the company. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Sure it does. I've done that with Bell. Yeah. Hey Bell, I'm gonna tweet you every hour on the hour until I hear from your technician.
No way.
Yeah, it's good.
I've never tried that. That's like getting into lines at clubs and stuff on Twitter.
I don't know. It's not that greasy, but the thing is, I'm the little guy.
It's not.
And I need to use whatever tools I can to be effective as a consumer. That's just street sense styles right there.
And you have you actually are credited with your street sense card.
Right.
One of the few Canadians that came from that small handful.
With my National Treasure card, I get complimentary upgrades at participating Applebee's on like side dishes and stuff. That's what I get.
Did you ever get laid for being on Street Sense?
No.
Back in the day?
No.
Never worked out that way? Where you're like, the girl's like, I just wanted to do this because of Street Sense?
No.
That would be cool, kind of, no?
No, there's zero cool factor to anything I've done.
Well, what about Joey Jeremiah wearing the hat?
I'm sure that worked for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure that worked for him.
Yeah.
In fact, I am really sure it worked for him.
Oh, no, we both are sure it worked for him.
Yeah. He's a nice guy.
I love Degrassi.
Me too.
I love Degrassi stories.
Oh, me too.
The disgustingly horrific storylines. When you were on that show, were the actual storylines still dire, or were they a little lessened at that point?
Well, no. I told you how I ended up being on Degrassi, right?
I don't know if you did to the TNT world, though.
The guy who played Shane in the original one, this is how I understand it. The guy who played Shane in the original one had a baby with Spike.
Okay.
Degrassi, the next generation, was about their now 15-year-old baby, and her name was Emma. At the end of the original Degrassi, Shane took acid and jumped off a bridge and had a head injury.
Right. And yes.
So the storyline is
that's actually in the episode with Wheel's dad when he first comes around for the second time. Yeah.
So that's the storyline. It was never really specified what the head injury was. All that to say, Emma in the next generation grew up thinking that her dad was a doctor. So they wrote a very special 2-part episode you can't afford to miss, where Emma runs away from school and goes to track down her dad at the hospital where he works. But lo and behold, would you believe he's actually a patient, not a doctor. And he's a patient with some type of kind of vague mental injuries that if you take the clues from the script, he rocks when he's nervous, he's prone to outbursts, and knitting is the only thing that'll calm him down. So
Holy moly.
the actor who played Shane in the original one, I gather, was after the producers of the Next Generation to say, write something for me. I'd love to come back. It would make sense that I come back, etc. They wrote this special 2-part script. He was not feeling it. So they were stuck with this 2-part script and no actor to play Shane. Because we'd done a Degrassi reunion on Jonovision that people were crazy for, they thought, hey, maybe we'll throw that guy a bone. He's blonde. So I ended up getting cast as Shane on Degrassi.
I remember that episode. Is that episode available online?
I bought on Amazon because I hadn't seen it in 10 years. I bought the DVD. It's at my house. You can come over and watch it.
I think we should maybe get a link and put that up somehow so people can enjoy that.
But my version of Shane talk like that is, and you're in crazy territory as a performer when you start to do someone with a disability, because it's the line between Daniel Day-Lewis style my left foot acting and
no way,
Corky
really?
from Life Goes On is very fine.
Or like, didn't Rosie O'Donnell do that too once?
Yeah, she did. Something on a bus. My sister on a bus or something. Yeah, it's murky territory.
They were
nice folks, and I was happy they asked me to do it, and it was really a challenge. I'll tell you that for free.
It's not on YouTube?
I played Shane, Emma's dad, on Degrassi: The Next Generation for 2 episodes.
It's not on YouTube, you doing that?
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is. I remember Bruce. By the way, Bruce McDonald directed it. Amazing Canadian director, unbelievable guy, and very kind and generous. And I had to do things where I like threw plates to smash on the wall and then knit and rock and knit. I had to learn how to knit for the role. It's quite something.
God, I gotta see this. Yes,
yeah, you do.
We have to have like a party.
Yeah, a viewing party.
If that would be definitely one. It's like if I ever drink again, I will have a drink if I watch that.
Yeah,
that would be
you'd
fun.
need one to get through it.
We gotta try and break down a list of like the top 5 best acting moments when they're playing an afflicted person.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad ones and not that many good ones. But anybody who takes it on, kudos to him.
Kevin Spacey too, right?
What movie was that?
Well, he kind of did it in with The Usual Suspects in a sense.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say The Shipping News that was shot in Newfoundland, because he played Coyle, who was kind of a big deformed cat, but he wasn't.
Maybe that too. Maybe I'm thinking of something else as well. But it's the Rosie O'Donnell one really stands out.
Oh man. Oh man.
Maybe we can refresh a link of that on TNT. What's the name of that again? The
something on a bus. Or like My Sister's on the Bus, or Let My Sister on the Bus. It's something like that. If I was writing it, it would be called, Hey, Let My Sister on the Bus.
I need to find it, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out on Twitter. We can have some fun with the followers with that.
Hey, Let My Sister on the Bus.
I seem to remember like a clip of her on like a talk show, when you have to like kind of talk about it and then they throw to it, and then like it's her being that, so that's like everyone's like like giving it kind of like the woo, because you can't laugh. So
what a sin.
Singing with that, like in the actor studio or something, like throwing to that clip.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Bus with my sister. Riding the bus with my sister.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Riding the bus with my sister.
Yeah. And there are clips on YouTube called like best part of riding the bus with my sister.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best part of...
But everybody needs one. Like Charlize Theron had to do Monster. Everybody has to, like, that's a rite of passage.
Can you play it and, like, crank it?
Okay, here we go. Stand by. Stand by. Riding the bus with my sister. I can play the trailer.
Yeah, sure.
There's one called Riding the Bus with My Sister Toilet Seat. Like, you know when YouTube does the prompts?
Like, that's like a scene?
Yeah.
Like there's a toilet seat scene?
I guess so. Oh, these might be parodies. Hang on.
I gotta hear it.
Okay, here comes the trailer.
Okay.
Stand by. Riding the bus with my sister.
Oh no! Why did you get a black car, Rachel? Why'd you get a black car?
Just wait, Beth.
Yeah, it's black. Black cars are ugly.
Wait, I don't like. Wait, can't you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. It's black. I don't think black cars are good. I like blue cars or green cars like Rick.
Who's Rick?
He's a bus driver. You met him at the film.
I don't remember.
Okay. That's I think it's Andy McDowell in the movie with her, and I'm not sure which one's supposed to be delayed. It's hard to tell.
Was it a movie that came out, or was it like a Sunday night made for TV thing?
I think it's I think it was like a CBS thing. Do you want to hear a bit more?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't see me in there.
I have your address. Honestly, Beth, you just make things harder on yourself.
Buckle up for safety.
I think she prefers to take the bus. I mean, the weird thing is she sounds like Rosie O'Donnell. It's not even like, wow, what an impenetrable fortress of a characterization.
She's got like the same timing and like sharpness.
She might as well be saying, coming up after the break, Tom Cruise. That was
You
weird.
don't have to say that. Oh.
America loved Rosie O'Donnell, and then they didn't. And I don't remember why. She had a cat fight on The View with Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the Redskins changing their name. We're going to talk about LeBron. We're going to talk about the World Cup. I say we just bunny hop over all that stuff and go right to our new game.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back with Over and Under. Stay tuned.
And we're back, and that was fantastic. That little clip of the great Rosie O'Donnell. She's brilliant.
Riding the bus
That's all
with
I
my
can say.
sister.
Yes.
There must be some kind of Toronto version with the TTC that could be done.
Who would play the part in a Canadian actress that you can think of?
Well, my default is Megan Follows.
Megan Follows. No, I don't know. Now, that character, though? That's your default of the... You can go so deep with actresses.
Well, you said Canadian actor, and that's the first person that sprung to mind.
Hasn't that turned into Sarah Polley, though, now? Like it went from Megan Follows
She
in
doesn't
like
really...
the 90s.
She doesn't really act so much as kind of producing stuff.
She just gets grants.
Maybe we should go counter obvious, like Ellen Page, like just a tiny person.
Yes.
Riding on the bus with my tiny sister. I'd watch that.
But she would probably go too dark with the character.
Yeah, she'd make it heavy.
Yeah, it would be too much.
Man, I don't know.
Let's play over under, Jonathan.
So here's what I was thinking. It's not even really a game so much as just a conversation starter. Because I've been thinking, I've had what I've called the I don't get it list, which is my list of celebrities that I don't really get why they're famous. Jessica Alba's one, Jessica Biel's one, Jennifer Garner's one. Seems like their names have to start with J.
Yeah.
So my I don't get it list has been with me for the last 10 or 20 years. So I was thinking, who are the people that are overrated? But instead of just dissing people for saying they're overrated, let's also use this opportunity to shine a light on someone who maybe doesn't have the career or profile that they should. So it's called Over Under. In a few different categories, we're going to pick people, places, or things that are overrated, but also ones that are underrated. So let's start in the category of music. Jeremy, musician. Who's overrated?
I don't want to be... and I like the fact that there's the back door with the underrated, because it gives you a chance to not be so bitter sounding.
Right.
But I would have to say Pharrell for overrated.
Really?
Yes, I in terms of like, I think it's more for the what people bestow upon him. You know, they're saying like he's the next Michael Jackson. I'm
Right.
like, how is that even a sentence that makes any sense at all? Like a guy who can sing quietly in the studio all of a sudden becomes a guy who can dance the stage off and like sing louder than anybody and just be brilliant as like just a singer, unbelievably brilliant, and then a dancer, unbelievably brilliant. Like it kind of tarnishes what brilliance is when you start comparing people like that with somebody like Michael Jackson. I just don't understand. The same kind of thing happens when someone says Bruno Mars is like Prince or something. It's just, how can you cast something that's just so completely not even in the same ballpark in terms of talent? And I know they're new and young, but it's just not the same thing. The talent kind of, there are so many young, talented people that are in that ballpark of those greats in the past. It just, it seems that the top 40 is riddled with far too many of the
I'll tell you, man,
idols.
I was iffy on Bruno Mars until I saw him at the Super Bowl, and then I thought, I'm not going to put him up in that stratosphere of celebrity or musician specifically, but man, he held court for 7 or 8 minutes and barely broke a sweat, and you can tell he is an entertainer through and through.
Well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to be when you're singing and dancing and doing that kind of stuff. But
And it's important to note that
when they compare them to greats, it's nuts. But
Right.
I get it. I get mad, and I always go to the books, and I say, well, if you're gonna champion all these new, and Pharrell's not that new. He's been around for almost 20 years now, through NERD and the Neptunes and all the production stuff that he's done.
So
But,
what is he? Is he just really good at hooks? He's like the earworm guy?
Yeah, I guess so. But it's not even it's not even as necessarily as much as a hook as it is his style and pushing his kind of thing. You know, usually you see a production style come and go, like a Little John. Remember, he was the guy
Right.
to hire back in the day, and then it went to Timberland, and there's always like a flavor of the month producer guy, and I guess he's kind of gone on and on through it like a Dre in a sense, but I mean, he's just kind of poppy, very similar. I mean, the songs that he does with Justin Timberlake almost sound the same as the one he does with the Thick,
Right.
Mini Thick, the Thickress, the Thickeress.
All right, I will hear your Pharrell, and I don't even know if I'm raising you, because this choice is probably not even that controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with Coldplay,
Oh,
because I
I'm
think
not going to argue that.
they're pussy, arena, iPhone, ballad, schlock, rock.
Nice.
Lights Will Drive You Home, or whatever that is. That's a nice tune, and I'd be lying if I said I hadn't listened to that at some points in my life. But generally speaking, and it's kind of that Wes Anderson thing where after a while Wes Anderson gets accused of, now he's just doing Wes Anderson. Coldplay has done the same thing over and over again. But, I mean, inherent in the word overrated, it's not saying they suck. It's just saying they have a profile beyond what their ability should yield. So for me,
Absolutely.
I think a band like Coldplay is like, they're okay, but they get vaulted into that U2 stratosphere, and U2 is a divisive group as well, but I don't think it can be argued that what they have accomplished repeatedly over many decades is really impressive. Like them or hate them, you can't deny U2 is incredible, what they've accomplished.
I remember when Coldplay came out, they kind of had a lighter version of like a Radiohead kind of vibe. And
Right.
I remember remember that band. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but I feel you on that as an overrated.
Right.
trip.
Like, speaking of U2, when I heard the Joshua Tree, that was a game changer. I don't think Coldplay has those kind of legs.
Yeah, when you change radio and people start to affect things, yeah, you can't deny
it's a big
that
deal.
Coldplay. Yeah, for sure.
All right, underrated.
Music underrated because we mentioned new and Pharrell, and people always like things that are new. I always go old because people forget things that are old.
Right.
And I feel that it's my job to maintain history. And Smokey Robinson is coming up to, I believe he's coming up to Falls View Casino or Rama or something like that.
And is
So
he your
he's still
choice?
at it. Smokey Robinson, underrated because you don't hear him on the radio anymore, but people should listen to his music, I feel. Like, you can't go wrong with the body of work and actually how important Smokey Robinson actually was, the amount of amazing music that guy created. He is actually underrated, even though he was a superstar for a long time. He to me should be heralded like, the stuff that he did for Motown. You hear Berry Gordy way more than you hear Smokey Robinson. And if it wasn't for Smokey Robinson, there wouldn't really be anything Motown musical.
Interesting. So aside from Barry, do you think there are other of his peers that got, more props than he did?
Other than Smokey Robinson or Berry Gordy?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Marvin Gaye seemed to be a bigger in a way, obviously, people talk about why am I drawing a blank? James Brown, like just the way he seemed a little more iconic, but for some reason it seems Smokey Robinson kind of floated through the cracks a little bit when you look at the amount of songs that he wrote,
That's the thing I love about technology is this will send me into a Smokey Robinson wormhole. And
Great,
I'll be on the YouTube.
that's why we do
stuff.
this.
Okay, so here's my choice for underrated.
Okay.
Don't laugh.
I will not. I won't laugh.
Bruce Hornsby.
Nice. That's just the way it is.
See? That's what everybody thinks about Bruce Hornsby. They think he's Mr. One-Hit Wonder.
And he also was a great piano player with the Grateful Dead.
With the Grateful Dead?
Yeah.
He plays the piano on the great Bonnie Raitt tune, I Can't Make You Love Me. He wrote and plays the piano on End of the Innocents, the great Don Henley tune. Yeah. And it's less for those and more for his classical pieces. He is able to emote with his piano in ways beyond my wildest imagination. He has provided, I know it sounds ridiculous, but the soundtrack to my life at various stages. And he's always kind of just written off at that as that the way it is guy. So still, I went old too, not as old as you did. And you can't even say the name without laughing, but Bruce Hornsby is my choice for underrated musician. And I think he's one of those, to use a cliche, kind of musicians that if he asked around, folks would be like, oh yeah, that kid's heavy. But he doesn't get the props that he deserves.
And he also has he has a distinctive style, which is very rare in music.
Totally rare. You hear that heavy pedal piano, and you know exactly who it is, and that's hard to do.
Sure.
If we were doing
cheesy,
if we were doing Canadianity, by the way, Jason Plum, songwriter, used to be in the Waltons, has a solo effort. Jason Plum and the Willing. He was always, for my money, one of the great songwriters in Canada who didn't get the profile that he so richly deserved. If we wanted to keep it closer.
Yeah, I remember the Waltons.
You don't remember them?
I do remember the Waltons, yes. I said I loved the Waltons. They were great.
Like My Tractor, or Lick My Tractor, depending on how you want to pronounce it. With no E,
yes. With the wonderful kid drawing.
It's a great record, and he's a great songwriter who knows his voice and writes specifically to it. All right, so let's move on in over-under to the category of actor/celebrity. It's pretty broad, because it could be an actor, it could be a celebrity, and the lines between those two kind of blur nowadays. Who's your choice for overrated?
Overrated, I'm going to go Jared Leto. Or Leto. whatever they say.
So is that just because of that Gaunt with the Wind McConaughey movie, or before that you were feeling that?
You know what? I still haven't seen that movie. I hear it's brilliant. I hear his performance is great in that movie, and it very well may be. I've never, I've seen him in a couple movies. He wasn't bad. I don't think he was. He might have even been great. I think I know his music. I've played shows with him and seen him on tour. His band 30 Seconds from Mars. 30 Seconds to
30
Mars.
Seconds to Mars, yeah.
They opened some shows for Our Lady Peace back in the day, and they were nice guys, but I wasn't crazy about the music. It's a similar kind of thing. They got really popular. Wasn't really crazy about that kind of music. It's a little dramatic and computer sounding. I don't know what the word. It's just very digital in a sense, and I'm not a big fan of the dramatic, like Final Fantasy video game music.
He's also one of those guys that's been kind of a comer for like 20 years. He's kind of on the verge of being the next big thing, but he doesn't ever go away, or it never really happens for him either. I totally buy that. Good choice.
Seems like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we'll give him the shot, and then it's like he wins an Oscar, and then he goes out and he does like the worst speech I've ever heard from anyone ever. Like,
it's really bad.
Like it's like that was so expected. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I would have actually had a different perspective on the guy if he maybe said something that was interesting or not cheesy. So I wasn't a fan, not gonna be a fan.
And he doesn't seem like a genuine original. He seems like a little contrived.
There's a lot of posturing going on as soon as breakfast is done.
Yep. I'll see your Jared Leto, and I will raise you a Justin Timberlake.
Oh, yeah, actor. Or would you just mean a celebrity in general?
Well, originally I meant as an actor, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized as a celebrity too.
Oh, really? It gets under your skin double.
Yeah, I get that he can sing. I think what saved him is his kind of friendship with Jimmy Fallon and stuff. Like the Barry Gibb talk show, really, really funny sketch.
Totally.
You know who else thought it was funny? Justin Timberlake. And you can tell when you're watching it.
There you go. And is that why?
Yeah, well, yeah. He's kind of winking the bit. And he's, kind of...
Dick in the Box, same thing?
Oh, no, I really like that. I like that a lot. But that was Sandberg.
But is he appreciative in the same vein? Like, yeah, I did that?
Kind of, but I think it's more irksome when he's doing his dramatic turns, like in the Facebook movie, and he did one of those like, why aren't we dating, or Friends with Benefits, or one of those forgettable romantic comedy things. He's not, the leap isn't happening for him. He doesn't translate from music to screen, and I just wish he'd stop trying.
But it's never going to stop. Especially with modern Hollywood, right?
I don't think he's ever going to stop, no.
People love those cardboard Chuck Norris faces.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one here. We get into sports.
Hey, what about underrated?
No. Underrated. And I have a great underrated.
I do too. I'm really happy with my underrated. In fact, I found the underrated's more fun somehow.
Yes, because again, it's like you get to pull for somebody that you don't really get to see enough.
Who's your underrated?
Exactly. My underrated is Christoph Waltz.
Wow.
He was in Inglourious Basterds, and Django Unchained, and Carnage, and Water for Elephants. This guy's a monster.
I love those solid character cats that can show up in different roles, and you almost have to take a second to think, like, oh, where have I seen that guy before? That's a sign that you're doing it right.
Yeah, and like he can be different. Like you're like, oh, there's that guy, and you're like, you're never gonna think about what he's saying. You're just gonna believe what he's saying as a conversation, just like in real life. And every single time that guy shows up on screen, it's like everybody becomes better, and he makes movies. That guy's like a franchise actor.
What a great description of somebody. He makes everybody else around them better. I mean,
Yeah,
I
like
often
it-
say
like-
as a performer, you only have your look, your hair, your face, the size of your frame. Those are the things that you kind of have to play with a little bit and make them fluctuate in order to keep reinventing yourself, because you're always Justin Timberlake in every movie you're in. It gets really boring.
Yeah, for sure.
I say that, and yet my choice for underrated kind of flies in the face of that.
Aha.
Steve Buscemi.
Oh, but he's great though.
He's so great.
Donnie.
So Fargo was the first movie I ever got to the end of and watched it again immediately from scratch. And it was 90% because of Steve Buscemi. He's just so, speaking of someone who just soaks up the screen when they're in the frame, he's so peculiar and so committed and so truthful. Did you ever see Trees Lounge?
That was one of the few ones I didn't see. I saw clips of it. That's like when he's just like basically sitting and hanging out in a bar
Yeah.
the whole movie, right?
It was his directorial debut, and by his account, it's what his life would have been if he hadn't become an actor. And Alec Baldwin was in it. There was an ice cream truck and inappropriate stuff with minors, and it was so depressing. But somehow seen through the Buscemian lens was really cool. He also directed a bunch of Nurse Jackies.
Yep.
Yeah,
He also did he did a couple really, maybe more than one, but Sopranos episodes too, right?
Yeah, he did. And he did a cameo on Portlandia where he played a guy who just wanted to come into this women's bookstore to use the bathroom. And he's there for 90 seconds of screen time, and he just blows the roof off the place. I can't say enough good things about him. Of course, he's kind of getting his due now with Boardwalk Empire, but he's still not celebrated at the level that I think he deserves to be.
Exactly, and that's, the same thing what I was saying with Christoph Waltz. Like, these are the kind of guys you'd like to see in main roles all the time, as opposed to it's got to be Brad Pitt every single time.
Right.
Or McConaughey, or, it seems like Jared Leto's the new guy. It's just, why do we have to have the guy, who can't act that needs support? That never happened back in the 60s and 70s, and when you had people like Robert Redford and Paul Newman that were actually attractive to the audience but could do the acting as well.
Right, the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
That was the funny
Rare.
thing about when I was in California. I'd go out for these auditions, and there'd be all these, hunky dudes in deep V-neck T-shirts, and I never got to read for that guy. I was always psycho, perv, lurker, weirdo, neighbor, new guy in town. Like, I never got to have the wholesome things. Those roles are boring.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Those aren't the ones you want anyway. All right, in the category of sports, overrated. Go.
Overrated. Well, you can't really get much more overrated for me than Tiger Woods. And I don't blame him as much as the media for perpetuating the myth that he's, going to continue the streak that happened in the early 2000s and the late 90s when he was just owning golf. And basically, he really had a chance to win every major that he was in. And it's gotten to the point now where I heard, I think a couple days ago, 2 or 3 major stories on Twitter about him hitting golf balls, after surgery. And already the talk is, if somebody says they see him hit a good shot, it's like, okay, look out, no more injuries, he's going to be fine, coming right back to 2000 because of the media and everybody that's either A, lazy, or B, their bosses are telling them that they have to talk about it. And it's just way too much for a guy who loves golf and doesn't really, have I don't pull for one horse. I pull for great golf and great drama from the sport. And when it's just the guy's like 15 shots back and they're still showing everything with him, and you just don't get the drama because they're not showing the real top 5 of the leaderboard, it just gets a little bit depressing. So
why won't the golf world or the media let go of the Tiger Woods story?
Well, for one, because it was so epic and so amazing.
Aside from the hose, like the golf part was epic and amazing too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the golf part that's what I'm purely speaking from that, but like the publicity of what happened to him and ended up kind of being the true elephant that
Right.
trumped everything. I mean, people know him for that more than anything, and that'll be kind of his cross to bear forever. But the golf that he actually played from 1997 to 2008 was just nonstop and utter dominance.
Right.
It was ridiculous. Like, it's just something you don't really see in sport. And people got so into it that they didn't want it to stop. So that's why they just keep talking about it, because if it does ever happen, then they'll think that they were genius. But I just don't think it will. I mean, at this point, you're dealing with a guy who's plagued now with injury, back surgery, hinders massive amounts of flexibility, and he has a ridiculously violent, powerful golf swing. So to try and take that away from that, it's not going to be the same guy. It just doesn't make sense. So,
Although you certainly can't take away from his actual very real accomplishments earlier on in his career. He was amazing.
But I would say the second best all time, behind Jack Nicklaus.
Really? It's like the LeBron Michael Jordan thing. You think if Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods went head to head at their heyday, Jack would be better?
Well, in their heyday, like, that's the thing. Like, Jack was very Tiger-like, where he would just drum the whole field, and he would just play so great in majors. He not only had 18 majors, but he had 19 seconds, and I think it was like 20 or 15 thirds, and it just goes on and on, the amount of that he was in contention in major tournaments. So you can't take that away from Jack, but the way that Tiger did dominate his field was very similar. So I don't know, it's like you can't really do it in baseball, where you compare somebody like a Mark McGwire with a Babe Ruth.
Right.
You know, it's just, with technology in golf, for one thing, it's completely different. But I would say Tiger has that element of if he played back in the day, because he really does have like a old school approach, where he doesn't really mess with too much, and he has a lot of old school, like he held on to his older clubs for as long as he possibly could, I think.
Well, that's the thing about golf. You make a couple tweaks to your swing and add 10 strokes back on your game.
Yeah, well, and nowadays stuff can, everything from the shaft to the club head itself can affect your ball flight. So it's just bizarre to think of the options. But he's kind of an old school sense player. But I think if him and Jack got together back in the day, it would be definitely fun to watch, because above all, the mental capacity of a Jack Nicklaus or a Tiger in his heyday were what's amazing. The actual strength, the mental strength of winning, not the actual, wow, how far is that ball going?
It's actually a good segue into my choice for overrated, because I went with Ovi.
Oh, yeah?
Alex Ovechkin.
Ovechkin.
Because his points have not only decreased every year for the last however many years, but it's that mental game that I think he lacks. There's no question he's an extraordinary athlete, but he has too many dumb reactionary moments where he tries to be too physical. He gets out of what his game is in order to reciprocate or pick a fight or whatever. True leadership skills, like your Taveses and your Crosbyses, those guys are tough, and they don't take just anything from anybody. They do give back, but they're not dumb about it. And I feel like
they don't buckle.
I feel like at this point in his career, if Ovi was a true leader, he would have led that team in part by example and led the team further along on the path of success. And I think
he had a pretty weird little dip last year. That was kind of strange that he kind of disappeared.
Well,
but
yeah.
I was actually surprised. I actually had him down and out and finished last year. I thought he was done, but he had a pretty spectacular year offensively this year.
yeah.
But you're
There's
right.
no question,
like,
and that's what I
isn't-
say again. Overrated
Yeah.
is not to say he sucks.
sure.
I just feel
Totally,
like
totally.
he hasn't lived up to the hype, and certainly if it wasn't apparent before Sochi, it became very apparent in that environment that he might not be all he's cracked up to be.
And also I think when you saw him play in the playoffs, or even just the fact when a couple years ago when everybody thought that even on paper the Capitals were the team to beat,
Right.
and it just kind of fizzled towards the end every single time once they got into the playoffs, and that's the ultimate stud maker. And like you said, the Taves, and even, well, I guess it's pretty much the Canes and the Taves and the Kopitars and the
Right.
Gaboricks nowadays. Those are the guys that are actually stars that can bring it as well.
Well, and since you said on paper, I'll segue into my choice for underrated. It's the Edmonton Oilers.
Ooh.
The reason I say we're underrated is because we are so good on paper, and our record doesn't reflect where we should be on the ice. But I want to give, in broad strokes, my choice for underrated is the Edmonton Oilers. Specifically, I want to talk about David Perron of the Edmonton Oilers, who is somebody who plays physically, has a lot of passion, not only that, but skill. I think he's really the emotional heartbeat of the team, and he kind of gets lost in the Hall, Eberle, and Nuge shadow, but Perron's a guy to watch, and the Edmonton Oilers are coming, I'm telling you.
There's too much talent on that team for them not to do something.
Yeah,
It's
and we might be a
ridiculous.
couple of years away, but I think it's easy to write off Dallas Eakins. It's easy to write off the whole team because there's no question it's been mortifying and there have been a lot of bumps, but don't count us out just yet.
And you have the kind of the best of everything in a sense. I think everybody was licking their chops for Dallas Eakins too when he was finishing up with the Marlies. They knew he was going somewhere. And I think everybody thought that you're right, that when he went to that team, he was going to be the guy that was going to get all these kids to start playing together.
And I'm still
properly.
convinced he is, by the way.
I think he probably is too, but and people overanalyze, right? They start questioning what is it, his diet stuff and the way he gets them up early, and just there's so much people go off about in that regard. Like either it's too much or it's not enough, right?
But the thing is, if you're brought in as the guy to start bailing on the Titanic, people are going to start criticizing you from the first bucket of water you toss overboard, whether it's efficient, whether it's fast, whether you're getting the maximum water out, what the chances of survival are. It's not fair because in a way, Eakins is paying for the sins of people who came well before him. And it might be that way for another year or two, but I hope they stick with him, and I see big things coming. Okay, who's your choice?
My choice for underrated, and it just definitely has to be one of the most underrated athletes, is Anthony Gose for the Blue Jays outfielder.
Yeah.
They actually just sent him back down to AAA Buffalo because Colby Rasmus is back off the DL, but he'll be back. I think he's just one of those players that just has way too much heart, and he's defensively one of the best outfielders I've ever seen from a guy who just walks into the position. So I think he could definitely be. I don't know if he could be a star, but I just think that he's got all the utility things that you would want in an outfielder, as well as the offensive power as a batter. He had a really amazing May. I think he had when he first came in, he was on base a lot, and he batted like 295 or something like that in May, and they went 14-4 or something when he was killing it with them. So,
And speaking of living in other people's shadows, right? There are some names on that team.
Oh, for sure,
Right.
sure.
That
like if you
soak
go
up all
down
the
that
ink.
lineup, right?
Yeah.
You go down there's so many little hidden gems in that lineup, and offensive people that just show up at any given moment that people overlook, stuff like this. And I think he'll be back, but Colby Rasmus, you're paying the guy too much to just leave him on the bench, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, good choices, bud.
Yeah, that was a pretty good little run through of over-under. Not bad,
Yeah,
eh?
it was good. It's interesting. Interesting to us, of course, because we're the people choosing the over-under. But if you're listening still and you have some choices for over-under, how about you hashtag over-under? Hit us up on the Twitter machine, Taggart and Torrens, and let us know what your choices are for people that you think are over and underrated in the world of sports, arts, and music.
I'd say over and under and over and out this week on TNT. That was a pretty good episode there, Jonathan.
It was fun. And just
A
to
little
let
mellow,
the people know,
right?
Yeah, it was like an interesting conversation over dinner, over a couple of donair egg rolls, just a couple guys hanging out. Just to let the people know, our plan ultimately is to dovetail this podcast into a radio broadcast.
Yes.
We've been speaking with some folks. It's in the works. We're just trying to figure out the best home for ourselves and the best format. Will it be weekly or daily? Will it be in the morning or the evening? Those kinds of things. But we sure are thankful that people listen, and we appreciate your feedback enormously. And thanks for sticking with us during the spotty distribution recent weeks, where we were kind of doing okay, having one out every week or 10 days, and then we kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. But we're back and better than ever.
Yes, we are, and this is definitely. You can call us if it's more than 10 days, somebody's hurt.
Yeah. Send out a mayday. If it's more than 10 days, I'm riding the bus with my sister.
Oh, we could get that link up right there, Jonathan. Thanks a lot, Jonathan. It's been great talking to you this week, my brother.
And also with you. Peace.
I'll see you next week.
Okay, man.
Bye, brother.
Bye now.